Hello everybody. In this video we're going to go over how to format a partition, a secondary internal drive, a thumb drive, or reformat it actually. All you got to do is go to System Administration if this was a live CD, and there'd be a tool there called gParted Partition Editor. This is the same tool used in many live CDs to partition, repartition, delete partitions, or reformat a partition on a great many tools. Even on the Ubuntu live CD, it comes standard, but for some reason, when you install the operating system, the tool does not come down with it. Okay, all you have to do is go to Synaptic Package Manager, Ubuntu Software Center, or to Culfer, and just search for gParted, G-P-A-R-T-E-D. Type in your password if you're using Culfer, and it will automatically do everything for you. Download and install. It looks like this is, after install, all of a whopping 1.4 meg, roughly, give or take. Most of the good tools that perform a single task well, which is really the philosophy behind this operating system, most of them are tiny installs. And they're quick to download, quick to install. Now, if you go to your System Administration menu, there's the menu entry gParted Partition Editor. Go ahead and type your password in, because what you are doing can break or make an operating system work, so you always need root access to it. First thing you always got to make sure you do when you launch this tool is make sure you have the correct drive selected. You do not want to delete a partition on the wrong drive. Now, I always do it by size. That's how I know what I'm dealing with. I have a 8 gig and I have a 1.87 gig. It was a 2 gig thumb drive. After time, it slowly deteriorates and loses size. It's one of those simple facts of life. The other reason I love this tool is it tells you so much information. It gives you so much control over everything. Right here, I can see it is mounted at DEV/SDB1, and that's where it's actually at. Unmount is selectable when I right-click, so I know it is currently mounted. There's also flags, and there's general information about the device, and you can see if I go to Media F691 yada yada, you will see there is indeed the folder there where it's actually being picked up in the operating system. So via this app, you can get a whole lot of information. Now, if we want to reformat this drive, the first thing we have to do is unmount it. In the Windows world, it does so much hold-handing for you that you really don't understand what's going on under the scenes. That's both good and bad. It's good as long as nothing ever goes wrong. But as soon as something goes wrong, most users are very lost to what's going on, what is the actual issue or error. I'm going to hit go ahead and unmount. By doing these individual steps, when something does go wrong in another operating system, you're typically much more able to deduce what's going wrong. Okay, now if I right click, you can see I have different options. I can change the formatting to a whole bunch of different formats. I can copy a partition. I can resize a partition. I can delete a partition. The manage flags is basically if you want this to be bootable, a hidden, an LBA, a LVM, other things. There's also a check tool in here. Now, this is not a check disk. This does not go as deep as a lot of other tools do to actually check the health of the disk. This just does a quick over on the file system and says whether or not the file system is healthy. I don't encourage anyone to use this as their tool to find out if the disk is okay or if the file format is heavy. There's definitely better tools to do that with. Okay, now if we're going to reformat, I always like to nuke and pave. So I'm going to right click and say delete. Now it's unallocated. Then if I say right click and new, I can say, what I want this formatted as. The things that are grayed out, they're grayed out because right now I do not have support for them installed into the operating system. And that is like HFS, HFS Plus, which is the old Mac file system and the new Mac file system, JFS, Riser, UFS, XFS, stuff like that. I am going to stick with FAT32 because it works on every operating system there is. Optional label, you don't have to do that. Go ahead and hit add. In actuality, I've done nothing to this disk yet. That old partition still exists. This new partition does not exist. Nothing is being done. You can see down here, this is my query pool. This is what is going to happen when I hit apply. So you can actually do a whole myriad of things. I can then say, well, let me resize it and make it that big. And it's going to perform each of these tasks one step at a time. So I always encourage you, keep your steps down here on this menu short, 1 or 2 steps the most. Don't try to do a whole bunch of things and then hit apply and walk away. It just means more than likely something is going to fail. If you keep it shorter, it seems to work a lot better and a lot quicker. We're going to let it go. And it's going to do this deleting and recreation of the partition. One quick note I will give users. If you are resizing a Windows partition, whether it be FAT32 or NFS, doesn't matter, and you have issues with resizing it, 2 things you got to remember. Number 1, whenever you resize a bootable partition, whether that's a Windows XP partition, Windows 7 partition, or a Linux root partition, always resize from the end or the right side of this graph. The bootloader tells it where to start, where the beginning is of the disk. The end doesn't matter. It's the beginning that makes something bootable or not. So if I were to resize this and I had an operating system on here, this would be unbootable. Second thing, if you're having issues with a Windows drive in particular, run a defragmenting tool. I know some people try to say now Windows 7 doesn't need defragmentation, yada yada, schmackety schmackety. That is complete poo. Windows will, in as far as the foreseeable future goes, will always need defragmentation. It does a very poor job in its file management system. They say you don't need it because their hard drives are so big and the processors are so fast and that you see little benefit. That I will agree. But for organization of the partition and of the disk, you need to do it. Once you're done with the process, it should automatically be ready to go. And if I just click it in the menu, now you can see I have a blank file system here. That's how easy it is to format or reformat a thumb drive. Again, system administration, gParted partition editor, one of the best, most solid tools I have ever used, bar none. Okay, let's move on to the next video.